Hey, welcome. Today we are diving into the world of one of the most important authors in all of English literature. Get this, he was a guy who from a prison cell managed to literally map out the journey of the human soul. A map that, well, it had two very different destinations.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to meet the man himself, the prisoner who became a legendary preacher. Then we'll explore his two masterpieces, the famous Journey Towards Salvation and its dark twin, The Path Straight to Damnation. After that, we'll see how these two paths stack up against each other. And finally, we'll unpack why his vision still resonates with us hundreds of years later.
So you've got to wonder, right? How does a man locked up in jail go on to write one of the most famous books of all time? Well, that's exactly where the incredible story of John Bunyan begins. I mean, just listen to the scale of that title. The Pilgrim's Progress from this world to that which is to come, delivered under the similitude of a dream. It sounds so epic, so grand. You'd think it was written in some vast, quiet university library. But no, it was dreamed up behind bars.
John Bunyan was a preacher in 17th century England, and it was a time of serious religious turmoil. He got thrown in jail because he violated something called the Conventicle Act, which basically means he was preaching without getting the okay from the official Church of England. Now back then, unauthorized religious meetings were seen as a major threat to the social order, so his defiance landed him in prison. And it was right there, in that jail cell, that he poured his powerful faith into his most famous works.
All right, so let's crack open the book that made his name famous for centuries. Let's take a walk down the road to the celestial city in the Pilgrim's Progress.
The basic idea is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. You've got a man named Christian, weighed down by his sins, who decides to flee his home, the city of destruction, and start this long, hard journey to the celestial city, which is, heaven. It's basically the ultimate spiritual road trip.
And let me tell you, this journey is anything but a walk in the park. Christian has to navigate some seriously treacherous places that are all symbols for our own inner struggles. Right after leaving home, he gets stuck in the Slough of Despond, a literal swamp of despair. He has to battle a monster named Apollyon, survive the endless temptations of Vanity Fair, and then finally cross the terrifying river of death before he can even reach the gates of the celestial city.
Now, the reason all this works so well is because the entire book is a brilliant allegory. So what that means is that every single character, every single location, it isn't just a plot point. It's a symbol for something bigger. A real-world temptation, a virtue, or a spiritual challenge that we all face.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. Just 2 years after publishing this hopeful masterpiece, Bunyan wrote the complete opposite story, a roadmap not to heaven, but one that leads straight to hell. And this comparison just lays out the contrast perfectly. Where Christian's goal is salvation and his path is all about spiritual struggle, Mr. Badman's goal is just vice and corruption. His path isn't about overcoming anything. It's about diving headfirst into greed and selfishness. Their destinations couldn't be more different. Unlike the fantastical, dreamlike vibe of Pilgrim's Progress, this book is totally different. It's written as a realistic, serious conversation between two friends, Mr. Wiseman and Mr. Attentive. They're basically just discussing the life of the recently deceased Mr. Badman, and they use his story as this powerful cautionary tale about what happens when you live a life without any kind of moral compass.
And the full extent of his failure in life really hits home when he dies. Bunyan makes a point to show that Badman got none of the honors you'd expect for a respectable person. There was no memorial for him, no awards or achievements to speak of, no sermon was preached about his life, and, this is the real kicker, nobody even mourned him. His life left absolutely zero positive trace on the world.
So you've got these two completely different books, these two very different paths, all from the same author. What gives? How do they fit together to paint a complete picture? Well, it all comes down to purpose. When you put the two books side by side like this, the contrast is just crystal clear. Pilgrim's Progress uses that dreamlike allegory to inspire you, to guide you. It's hopeful. Mr. Badman, on the other hand, uses realistic dialogue to warn you. It's serious. They're basically two different tools for two different jobs. One is a map to heaven, and the other is a giant warning sign for the road to hell.
Okay, so let's fast forward a few hundred years. Why are we still talking about these stories written way back in the 1600s? What gives them such incredible staying power?
Well, for starters, The Pilgrim's Progress became a global phenomenon. I mean, it blew up. It was translated into countless languages and became a cornerstone of both Christian literature and, the wider literary world in general. It's simple, powerful story just connected with people everywhere.
And that really gets to the heart of it. That's the crucial point. Bunyan's true genius wasn't just his deep faith, it was his incredible skill as a storyteller. He could take these huge, complicated ideas about sin and redemption and faith and despair, and he could turn them into characters and adventures that anyone, and I mean anyone, could understand. He made theology feel like an epic adventure story.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Bunyan presented two very clear paths, one of struggle that leads to a great reward, and one of selfishness that leads to ruin. In our modern world, which is so often full of moral gray areas and really complex choices, does that kind of clear black and white map of right and wrong still have something valuable to show us? Does it still point the way?